Yeah, baby. You know what those dimples do to me. Nah, not them dimples. Yeah. What is up, YouTube? I hope you guys enjoyed that sexy intro. I definitely had fun making it for you guys. But we're going to jump right into our video today. So I was having a discussion with a friend of mine. We were talking about new builds that we're both working on. And during that talk, I asked him, had he dimpled his barrel or pinned it? And I got a blank stare back. I mean, he had no clue what I was talking about. Now, this is his first rifle build. He's never done this before. And whenever you build your first rifle, there are going to be those things that you either don't know how to do or didn't even know you were supposed to do in the first place. So I thought this would be a good inaugural video to make a video about dimpling barrels and what all is involved in that. So we're going to cover 3 points. First, why dimple? And to understand why you want to dimple your barrel, you have to understand how your gas system works. So we're going to go through that. Then we're going to talk about the tools required, most of which you probably already own. And then we're going to actually walk through a dimpling process together. We're going to do a dimple demo or dimple. I don't know. Let's just get to it. All right. So we have a round that sits in the chamber. We pull the trigger, the round discharges, and our projectile begins moving down the barrel. And it's being pushed down the barrel by hot expanding gases. Now, when it reaches to right about here, some of those gases are going to bleed out of the gas port and into the gas block. From there, it's going to bleed from the gas block into our gas tube, and it's going to travel back into our action, and that's how our action cycles. Our round is going to exit out of the barrel due to the expanding gases that are still moving behind it. Now, keep in mind our gas block is attached to our barrel by 2 screws. It's basically clamped onto the barrel. The first screw in our gas block is indexed directly above the gas port, and I'll come back to why that's important in a little bit. Now, every time a round is fired, the gun is going to vibrate a little bit, and each time it vibrates, things can move around. This is why we lock tight our screws and make sure everything is good and tight and can't rotate out. Now, if that first screw that we mentioned isn't dimpled, or if the entire gas block is not pinned to the barrel, what can happen over time is the gas block will rotate left to right. It may go forward or backwards, but it will be out of alignment with the gas port. And then it can't push gases through the gas tube into the action in the way that it needs to reliably. And the worst part about this is you'll blame everything else except the gas port, because the gun will run great for a while, and then all of a sudden you're going to have issues cycling. So let's quickly cover the tools we're going to need to dimple our barrel. First, you're going to need a drill or a drill press. I'm just using a drill. I do recommend corded over cordless, but if that's all you have, then that will work. Then we're going to need a 5/32 inch cobalt drill bit. And then our most important tool is a barrel dimpling jig. Now, I went with the SLR Rifle Works, but there are many others out there that will suffice. I'm also going to use vice jaw covers, preferably non-marring ones if you have them. It's not really a requirement, but they are nice to have. And then finally, we're going to need a vise. I'm also going to use just a drop of gun oil. You really don't need a lot. I'm going to use G96 synthetic. I'll post a link to that and everything else below. So let's go over a couple of key points. First, you'll notice that the dimpling jig has numbers on the front. Those correspond to the distance between the set screws on the gas block. Now, when we place our jig on the barrel, we want to make sure that those numbers face outward away from the muzzle. Again, those numbers will face out, away from the muzzle. If you look inside of our dimpling jig, you'll notice the set screw at the bottom. That will index with our gas port on the barrel. On the opposite side of the gas port is where we're going to place our dimple. So we'll start by mounting our barrel in the vise, and our goal is to index our set screw directly on top of the gas port. So let's loosen our set screw. We're not going to take it all the way out. We just want it to come down a bit so that when we place the dimpling jig on the barrel, it doesn't scrape against. Now we'll start locking down our set screw. We want it to just barely touch the barrel. Once it gets to that point, we'll move it over the gas port and we'll wiggle it around until it locks in place. And you'll know it because you won't be able to move it side to side or front and back. Once it's there, we're going to hand tighten it. Now, if you look at our jig, you'll notice it has flats on it. So what we're going to do is take the barrel out of the vise and we're going to place it back in there using those flats. This is why I recommend having non-marring vise jaws, both for your barrel and the jig. I've positioned the barrel in the vise so that the gas port faces down and our dimpling set screw actually faces up. So we're just going to hand tighten this. I'm going to add just a drop of oil. If I can get this open. And again, I'm using G96 synthetic, but just about any oil will work. And there are links to it down in the description. Now, since we're drilling through hardened steel, we want to make sure that the drill is set for the maximum torque that it can handle. We're going to position our drill bit, and then we're going to start drilling. At first, we're going to go slow. Remember, you do not want to drill through your barrel. There's no repairing that. So we're going to keep going until we start to see material come out. There we go. I'm going to stop there. That's probably more than enough. So let's get some of the shavings out of the way. We're going to remove our set screw. All right, let's grab a light, have a little look-see. All right, I think we're good. I'm going to take this out of the vise and try to get this in front of the camera for you guys. The camera doesn't want to pick it up. You know what, let's hit it with a little light. There we go. Now we can remove the set screw that's indexed with the gas port. This will allow us to take the dimpling jig off, rotate our barrel, and there's our dimple. Yeah, baby. Looks good. Now that our barrel is dimpled, we want to do a test fit with the gas block. We want to make sure that our set screw recesses directly into our dimple. When you're sliding your gas block in, it might be a little tight. In that case, just loosen the set screws. As a matter of fact, just to make sure everything is lined up properly, you can go ahead and take the set screw out that will be above the dimple. The camera's not doing a great job of this, but they are lined up. So now we'll take our set screw. We're going to hand tighten it down. Wiggle it a little bit. Make sure it's on pretty tight. Remember, this is just a test fit. You don't have to use too much force. We can verify that our set screw is recessed into the dimple correctly by rotating our gas block sideways. It should sit much lower than our other set screw. Here's a bonus tip for sticking with me this far. Now, we should be using thread locker on all of our set screws, including the ones that are on the gas block. Usually red Loctite is used on them, but there's a couple of drawbacks to it. First, it has an operating temperature of -65 degrees to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. That may seem pretty hot, but your gas block will definitely get hotter than that if you're doing a lot of shooting. Additionally, if you want to remove your gas block, you're going to have to heat it up to about 500 degrees with the torch in order to loosen up the Loctite. Instead, I would recommend an industrial thread locker called Rockset. Its operating temperature is -292 degrees to 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. It can do this because it's a ceramic-based thread locker. Now, to get it off will take quite a bit of elbow grease, but you won't have to heat it up. So now that we've walked through the process of dimpling the barrel, as well as talked about why it needs to be done in the first place, do you feel this is something you can do on your own, or are you still intimidated by it? Leave a comment either way. I'm interested to know what you guys are thinking about that. If you found this video at all useful, go ahead and like it for me. If you want to see other firearm related content in the future, please subscribe and go ahead and hit that notification button. Be safe and happy building.